Yes.
Seriously though, it's overperforming. Well, above 15,000 feet anyways. There's more to the story than that, but for now let's just take a look at some climb rate data. So climbing at 450 knots IAS, we have a fairly stable climb rate of about 100 meters per second, which is pretty much identical to what's described in the flight performance manual. However, once we reach 15,000 feet and start climbing at Mach 0.87, the problem becomes obvious. The Lightning is supposed to sustain 100 meters per second up to about 30,000 feet, but in War Thunder we get a massive spike of 150 meters per second when switching from knots to Mach. Up to about 30,000 feet, the in-game Lightning can sustain over 100 meters per second. It's not until we pass 35,000 feet that the climb rate begins to settle back down, although it still climbs faster than it ought to, all the way up to past 40,000 feet. Oh, and bear in mind that I did this climb test with full fuel, which is equal to about 41,000 pounds in-game, whereas the climb chart is for 38,500 pounds. Alrighty, let's move on to sustained turn rate. This time the graph's describing an aircraft weighing only 33,000 pounds. Here I used minimum fuel, which brings the in-game weight to roughly 33,600 pounds, which is slightly overweight for testing, but regardless, we find that the Lightning turns as it should at 10,000 feet. At altitudes of 20, 30, and 36,000 feet, however, the turn rate is overperforming. At 30,000 feet, it's just about pulling a whole G higher than it ought to, 3.6 G as opposed to 2.8. The one place the Lightning actually underperforms is below 10,000 feet. At sea level, it sustains about 7.4 G, when it ought to be sustaining closer to about 7.7 G. Now for acceleration in level flight. Here the graph describes an aircraft that's equipped with red tops and weighs 36,000 pounds. Now this time around I went ahead and created a custom user mission specifically for this weight and loadout. At 15,000 feet, the Lightning performs almost exactly as it should, accelerating from Mach 0.85 to 1.2 in 42 seconds, and to Mach 1.4 in 2 minutes. The maximum speed of just over Mach 1.42 is also correct. Above this altitude, we're back to overperformance. Now, since we're testing a Lightning with Avon 302 engines, not 301Rs, the expected time to accelerate is reduced by 10%. At 25,000 feet, then, we should expect to reach Mach 1.2 in about 49 seconds instead of 54. But our in-game Lightning reaches Mach 1.2 even faster at 34 seconds. It can also do Mach 1.7 in 2 minutes and 27 seconds instead of 2 minutes and 53 seconds. And at 35,000 feet, it's pretty much the same thing. We accelerate to Mach 1.8 in 3 minutes and 16 seconds, when we should be doing it in 3 minutes and 40 seconds when taking the Avon 302 performance into account. As a side note, the Lightning can supercruise at over Mach 1.2 up at 36,000 feet. I'm not entirely sure if this is accurate or not, since I couldn't find any data for high altitude acceleration without afterburner, so it's fine, I guess? But of course, the one place where the Lightning underperforms is again below 10,000 feet. When testing acceleration at 5,000 feet, we find that it takes a whole minute and 3 seconds to reach Mach 1.1, when we should be hitting that speed in only 27 seconds. Additionally, the Lightning should be reaching a maximum speed of Mach 1.15, and that's with red tops, but in-game it can only reach Mach 1.13 in the same configuration. The only way to reach Mach 1.15 is to remove the red tops. So, there it is. The Lightning F.6 is, in fact, kind of overperforming when it comes to its real-life counterpart, at least when it comes to altitudes above 15,000 feet. At low altitude, meanwhile, it's being held back a bit. Now that that's out of the way, you can all go complain about more important things. like the fact that supersonic jets are still fighting on maps designed for propeller-driven aircraft, or that the max battle rating is still 10.3 for some reason, or that invisible missiles are still a thing. Well, anyways, see ya.